Make any difference.
Whoa. How was that?
Okay, got it sorted. Not sure exactly what was going on there, folks, but it looks like we got it situated. Apologize for the delay there. Let me just make a little tweak here because I think we're coming on a little hot. Hello, everybody,
hot.
And welcome to Photo Blab. It's episode number 59. We are good to go. You guys should see us in just a moment.
Hopefully you can hear us.
All right. Yes, they can hear us. Fantastic. Okay.
Yay.
Let's do this thing. Woo, woo, woo. Welcome, everybody. Just want to say hello to everybody's here. We've got, let me just scroll up so I can see. CC Girl is putting the baby to bed. Peter is here. Hello, Peter. And hello, Mike. Mike comes right in and says, Mark is for the birds. Hello to Christopher and Candace and hey Danny man, how's it going? And let's see who else is here. Oh, CC Girl is back. Hey Paul, how's it going? Paul Bacon is here. Mike's got a tech question right away. We will definitely get to that. Hello to Vincent and hello Tim and hello Matt. It was a settings issue that I was having here. That was the sound. So thank you guys for the patience while we got it sorted out. Yeah, basically. Hello Pyro Universe. Hello everybody that's joining us. As always, we appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. Hello to Sandy as well. This is Photo Blab. And we always like to start the show with our week in photography, and we want to know what you guys have been up to. Hello, Christopher, and hello, David. So please...
Good showing today.
Yeah, good showing tonight. Please let us know what you guys have been up to this week in the chat, photographically or otherwise. Mark, why don't you start by telling us what you've been up to this week?
Sure.
I'll grab your link for you.
Okay. Well, for starters, I think I mentioned a couple of... photo blabs before that I was planning on starting a barn project, basically taking some photos of local barns that are in and around my area, and I got my first one shot on the weekend. It was shot out in the middle of a snowstorm, and I wasn't sure at first how it was going to turn out because of the fact it was snowing like crazy, but it turned out pretty good, and I was quite happy with it, and anybody else who looked at it seemed to like it as well too, so that's good. Oh, so we have a new Sandy in our stream.
Yes, I was just saying hello. So hello, Sandy. New Sandy, welcome. Sandy Gedry. We've also got Tim, who said he just made some ribs for the first time. Meant to take a pic for your dad, because Mark, your dad likes to take pictures of his dinners and meals and share them in the group, but he didn't. He ate the ribs before he got to the picture. Gotta say hello to Naraya, who's also here with Christopher. So hi, Mariah. I'm sorry, I just totally screwed that up. Naraya. Mariah just like popped out of my mouth there. My bad.
Candy showed up too.
Hey, Candy's here. Fantastic. So was that everything? Your barn? Was there anything else you wanted to share?
Well, other than that, just sort of a heads up for everybody that who didn't see yet in the group. I've got for the U.S. residents, I have a $25 iTunes gift card I'm going to give away this week. Obviously, for U.S. residents, if it was for anywhere else, I would have used it myself, but unfortunately, I can't use it. So I figure good excuse to give it away.
Yes, yeah. So that'll be the giveaway, and as usual, we'll do that at the end of the show. So make sure you stick around to the end, and that'll be the giveaway. Peter says I've mostly been experimenting with a sturdier tripod that he's borrowed. The one he usually uses isn't enough for his 300 millimeter, which when put on his Olympus camera is more like a 500 millimeter lens, that's like some zoom, which is awesome.
Yep, look at the moon.
Hello to Penny. Penny just joined us. She's a local photographer here in Wisconsin Rapids with me. Whoops, crap. Hold on a sec. My cat just minimized the chat. I just brought it back. Tim says, photo-wise, he's trying that long exposure stuff. I think I missed the mark with the project. No, I would disagree with that assessment, Tim. You're being too hard on yourself. There's 2 points to this, right? Number one, it's literally, to just experiment and have fun and learn. And that's part of what I know everybody's been doing. And number two, it's just try to better understand what long exposure is and what kind of photos you can take with it. So there's no mark to hit when we do these challenges, except that we want you guys to learn, and the challenge is a way to help motivate you to do it. Now, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, we've got a Facebook group, and Mark, are you grabbing the link?
Yeah, I'll grab the link.
Okay,
yeah.
Mark's grabbing the link. And if you're not part of that group, you can join and participate. We have weekly fun challenges, which are literally just share photos on a theme. And then we have our monthly challenge, which is where we want you to actually get out, take photos on the challenge. And then each month, Mark and I are going to do a live show in the group and discuss the photos and pick a best photo of the month. And then we're going to do a calendar of everybody's photo at the end of the year. At least we've talked about that. We got to figure out all the logistics. So
that could be a challenge in itself. But.
Definitely check that out. And I'm not sure if I said hello to Emmanuel, but if I didn't, I want to say hello. And before it gets lost, because the chat's moving pretty quick here, I want to back up and I want to catch Mike's question, and then we'll get to my week in photography. So Mike's question was, I have a Sigma 150mm to 600mm lens. He says, shoots pretty sharp. Any reason I need to custom program?
I'm not sure what he means by custom program.
Yeah, can you clarify what you mean by that, Mike? By custom program? Because I don't know, I don't quite understand that either, and I'd like to understand better so that we can actually try to answer that for you.
Yeah,
so go ahead and clarify. In the meantime, my week in photography. So here's what's happened for me. Number one, I got bifocals. And this is related to photography because part of the impetus for me to get bifocals was I'll be taking photos, and when I would go to Chimp and check my LCD screen to make sure the colors were good, the exposure was good, all that sort of stuff, I had to flip my glasses up because I couldn't see it quite clear enough to make the assessment that I wanted. And that was the signal to me that, I better go back to the eye doctor and get that bifocal prescription. So these arrived. And so far, I have not fallen down the stairs, which is a good thing because several people warned me about falling down the stairs. The other thing is, if you did, some of you caught this earlier, but this is sort of news, but it's also exciting to me. The mobile app for YouTube now allows for live streaming from your mobile device. Now, the caveat to that is that it's currently only available to people who have 10,000 or more subscribers, but soon, according to YouTube, it'll be available to everybody. But the reason it's exciting and pertinent to me is because I can use it, and that means that we can do live in the field photo shoots because of my mobile. So I'm excited to do that when it warms up because it's too bloody cold right now for me to go out there and take some damn photos. I'll take my damn photos in my studio where it's warm. And then finally, I got a second capture card today. My studio streaming PC is very close to being fully set up and complete and ready to go. I just need to get the sound configured on it, and it'll be good. And once I do, I'm going to do a test stream. Probably not a photo shoot because I don't have anything currently scheduled, but I'll probably do something on my garbage YouTube channel, which is where I test things and where I have like 12 subscribers, and it's literally just like the junk that I'm doing to test stuff out that I don't want on my main channel. And I'll do some sort of a test stream out in the studio just to make sure everything works, to test the sound and all that sort of stuff. So that's what's happened with me. I'm really excited about it. I did have a photo shoot this past Sunday as well that went really, really well. I was super excited about it. In fact, I won't show it to you right now. Forget it. I'm not even going to bother because it'll be too much work to set it up, and we're in the middle of the show. So that's what's been going on. Let's catch up here now and see. Let's see. Candy says, I still need to do the long exposure. Been on too many interviews and therapy. Yeah, the physical therapy stuff, I know for your shoulder, or Candy, that really sucks and that can get in the way of things. Oh, I understand. Vincent says Sigma lenses can be programmed to the camera, a bit like the lens corrections in Lightroom. And Mike's clarifying the same thing. You can buy a computer collar and plug it into the lens for more precise settings for some of those Sigma lenses. Honestly, if it is working for you, Mike, I would say no. I wouldn't go fiddling with, because my philosophy for something like that is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right?
Yeah, and I think usually with that setup, it's just for if you're having an issue with front focusing or back focusing.
Yeah, so I would not mess with it unless you, pardon me, you're actually having problems, and based on what you said before, you're not. So, yeah, don't fix what ain't broken. CC Girl says, wouldn't that eat up your data, referring to the YouTube? Yes, that'll be the challenge that I need to figure out. And I'm currently on a plan with 3 gigs of data, which is a decent amount, but not a huge amount when you think about streaming. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. One of the things I'm going to do is just like go out. I'm going to like figure out how much data do I have as of today, and then go out and do a stream for like 20 minutes or something to see how much data it uses up, so I can try to gauge like, you know, how much an hour of streaming in the field will eat up in terms of actual data.
Yeah, you should be able to gauge roughly how long you'd be able to stream to use up your 3 gig, but obviously you don't want to use it all up because then you won't have any left for the month.
Right, exactly. And Peter says that's good because I don't think Instagram rolled out live functions internationally yet. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's interesting. I thought that was now available to everybody. All right, want to say hello to Austin Pope, who says awesome channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Peter says I can hook up to Wi-Fi. I'm thinking about the possibility of a separate Wi-Fi hotspot with prepaid data, because that could be an option where I could buy like 60 or 6 or 10 gigs for like, you know, $40 or $50 and then burn that up for a stream without using up my actual data. And then Austin says, just bought a new camera, the 5D Mark IV. Awesome camera. And he says he's going to be uploading pictures real soon to us. That's fabulous. Nice. Looking forward to that. And Mike says that's what I thought too regarding programming it. That's for sure. All right, so if you haven't shared or you have questions, go ahead and pop that stuff into the chat. In the meantime, we're going to run through the news. Now, this is this new format, so we're not going to spend a ton of time on the news. This is more like a headline rundown of interesting stuff. Mark, do you want to burn through it, or do you want me to burn through it?
Yeah, you burn through it. I'll put the links in there for anyone who's interested.
All right, first bit of news that I thought it's more YouTube news than anything else, but you guys, some of you are familiar with the fact that Digital Rev TV lost first Kai and then Lok, and they were the big personalities on the channel. And now another person, Warren, has left the show, Digital Rev TV, the channel. And this person, though, he hadn't been there for that long, but it's interesting because they seem to be losing a lot of talent. At the same time, I've been watching the videos that they've been putting out since Kai and Lok left, and I've been enjoying them. So, despite...
I don't think they put a lot out, though.
They have not. No, they have definitely not been putting as much out as they did when Kai and Lok were still there. And I think they're kind of reconfiguring and kind of getting their feet under them with the new direction, because Kai and Lok were the real personality of it. But you know, the person, Warren, made a point to say it wasn't him jumping off a sinking ship. It was just that he wasn't, you know, it wasn't for him anymore. So I'd say stay subscribed, because they still are producing good videos, even if it's not as many.
Yep.
Now, in more exciting news, Sony developed a new smartphone sensor. This is a pretty cool sensor because as of right now, on smartphones, you can do, I think, up to about 120 frames per second on an iPhone, which is pretty cool, and you can do some really cool slow-mo with that. But Sony has developed a new 3-layer sensor that can shoot full 1080p video at up to 1,000 frames per second. That's like super crazy slow-mo, which is awesome, because if you can imagine that being available in smartphones, that makes super slow-mo available to basically everybody, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, fill up your phone's memory in a big hurry.
Oh my God, yeah, that it will do. So that'll make 128, 256 gigabyte phones a necessity. But I look forward to that being something that's available in smartphones, maybe in the iPhone 10. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Exactly.
And another in a bit of Sony bad news, some of their SD cards have been found to not be compatible with the new Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II camera. So if you have that camera, or if you've been pre-ordering that camera, avoid Sony's SF, M32, M64, and M128 model SD cards, because they will not work with the EM1 Mark II.
I find that this a strange situation, because I would have figured SD cards were basically sort of like an industry standard in the way that they work. So I find it very, very odd that the Olympus camera is having issues with reading or using the cards in general. But that being said, the Olympus camera has also had some issues as well too, with some Sigma lenses as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but as these cameras and lenses become more and more computers than just cameras, I can see these things happening more and more. So it's something that we need to watch out for, in the future. Now this is now rumor territory. Everything I say from here on out in terms of the news, this is all rumors. And so I'm going to go really fast on these. We have rumors that Nikon is updating the D800 series of cameras with two possible cameras, a D820, which could use the 46 megapixel Sony sensor that's currently also being used in the A7R II, and possibly another D800 series camera, maybe the D850 it's been called, that could have a 70 to 80 megapixel sensor. I think that's insane. Like, to me, that's just nuts. Olympus is definitely rumored to be making a 17 millimeter f1.2 lens, and this is significant because a lot of people complain about the micro four thirds and being able to get like that super shallow depth of field because of the mechanics of a smaller sensor. It changes the distance to the subject to camera distance, which does change the depth of field, as compared to like a same composition with the same focal length on a full frame camera. So one of the ways you can compensate for that is ever wider apertures. And basically that's making f1.2 the sort of f1.8 or f1.4 of the full frame world. And certain people who shoot micro four thirds are really looking forward to those lenses. More Sony, well, this is rumor again. Supposedly a new high-end Sony E-mount camera is coming. So this is part of the A series, supposedly part of the A series of mirrorless full-frame cameras. This apparently will be slotted above the A7R II, possibly be called the A9, and possibly have a very fast burst rate and very fast autofocus speed. So in that regard, Sony is treating their A7 line kind of like Pentax treats their camera lines, with just new, like, let's just throw another camera in the lineup. Who cares? Who cares?
We already have 16 of them. Let's add another one.
Right. And then finally, for rumors, wrapping up our news segment, we have some Canon rumors, one of which is a pretty solid-looking rumor because there's been photos leaked of a new Canon mirrorless camera called the M6, which is basically supposed to be just like the M5, but without an electronic viewfinder. So similar specs, probably a cheaper price because it doesn't have the electronic viewfinder, but it will have an accessory viewfinder that you can buy. That doesn't make much sense to me. If you want a viewfinder, just buy the M5. And then also a T6s and a T6i replacement cameras are supposed to be coming. Supposed to be called the T77D and like T7i or 77D. I don't know, weird names. Whew. So that's the rapid fire news. Anybody else?
And if I confused anybody, I think I screwed up some of the links when I was putting them in there. So
yeah,
I think they're all in there, maybe out of order or maybe in there twice, but
that's okay.
There, sorry.
yeah. So I want to just catch up in the chat here. Let's see. Vincent says Digital Rev seems to be moving to film. Yeah, they kind of have been focusing more on film side stuff lately. They've been doing two things. One was like they did the Canon AE1 sort of. It wasn't like a review, but it was kind of a review, kind of like this is an amazing, old school film camera. And then they've been doing these sort of like kind of like a history/commentary video. They did one on Instagram recently, criticizing Instagram for basically kind of turning into Snapchat and losing focus on the main thing, which was sharing the photos. And then I think they did like a history of, I don't know, it was a company. I can't remember which one it was, but they've been doing that kind of thing and less like gear review and that kind of thing like Kai and Lok used to do. So they are going in a different direction photographically in terms of the topics that they're covering, but they're still producing really good videos, I think.
Yeah, and I think with Kai and Lok too, I've noticed that they're actually now seem to be working with other channels as well now too. Like they had their own channel, but I think they're actually doing more gear stuff for a couple of other channels. Yeah,
like Lok has been freelancing for that Photo Gear News, and I think Kai has even been doing a little bit of contract work for those guys.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, I mean, good luck to those guys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fizzy has joined me in my lap. Hello, say hello, Fizzy. Candace said, I was in Key West, Florida last week and got some fabulous sunset photos. Just beautiful. My husband and I had super time. That sounds fantastic. I've never been to Florida, but it's a place that I'd like to go check out for sure someday.
Just for the sunsets and the bikinis.
Yeah, right. And Austin says, my goal is to become a professional someday. That's a great goal. Keep working at it. It is achievable to anybody, but just obviously you need to be aware that it's going to take a lot of hard work. And if you want to be a professional, Austin, quick bit of advice, spend just as much time right now working on your sales and marketing skills if you don't already have a good solid set there, because if you want to be a pro and you want to make money off of this as a business, your business skills are arguably more important than your photography skills when it comes to building a photography business. Not that you should neglect your photography skills, but that is hugely important. It's not good enough to just take good photos and then hang out a shingle or make a Facebook page and say, I want to be a pro now. I cannot stress that enough. But, I mean, otherwise, go for it, because I believe everybody has the opportunity to do that. Tim says, with quick Googling, estimate approximately a gigabyte of data per hour if streaming. That's a good bar to know about. So I could probably get away with that, because outside of that, I'm actually pretty light on my data, because I used to Snapchat a lot, but I don't anymore. And Snapchat used to be what chewed through my data like crazy, because I did a lot of like little video bits there. Vincent says, never mind the damn phone. What does it mean for sensors on real cameras with that Sony sensor, and that they will be shifting data at light speed very soon, which I agree with. That's what's going to be really cool when that trickles up into our cameras. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Christopher says, I just bought a new D750. I would have waited. Yeah, but all that stuff is rumored, Christopher. Better to buy the camera you know than to wait for the one that might be.
That may or may never be.
Yeah. Vincent says, until Sony sells the range 500 less than they currently do, cutting the price a little bit, they won't make huge inroads because you've got to add the glass, and that stuff is so expensive. Yeah, that's very true. That's one of the things about Sony. Like, all of their stuff is really... Sony, in terms of price, is kind of like the Apple of the camera manufacturers. And... they do sell their cameras, but they don't sell the volume that Canon and Nikon do, and Pentax and some of these others. I don't know if Pentax even sells the volume, even though they have better pricing.
I don't think they do.
But Canon and Nikon. Lord Bacchus, hello and welcome. CC Girl, awesome. She says, here, that's where I'm kind of lacking. That's where I've been lacking too. And David concurs about business and marketing skills. Yeah. Matt says...
I know mine suck.
Yeah. Matt wants to know if we have any tips on building a photography business, things to avoid. A quick rundown of tips, other than what we just said, which is just to focus on the sales and marketing. One, get your contracts in place sooner rather than later, because contracts are really important to protecting your business, and you're going to learn and make mistakes. Number two, if you want to build a business, people dislike hearing this, but if you want to build a business, one of the biggest advantages when you're starting is to work for free. But see, it's not really for free. It's for non-monetary compensation. That's a way to get yourself out there and work with people and start building a client base. But the key is, when you do that, set a specific amount of time you're going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it for 6 months, and be choosy about the free jobs you do so that they're strategic and that they benefit you and build the base that you can build your business on top of. So that, paired with having contracts in place and networking the crap out of yourself and working on your sales and marketing skills, those are the things that I would say you need to do. And I know those are broad strokes, but that's going to be the big thing. And Tim, thank you very much for popping that in there. I knew we just recently did a blab on that, but I couldn't remember the number. Episode number 55.
Just put the link in there for 55.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mark. All right. Hello, Ed James, and he says started shooting with Olympus. That's also. Mike says, I'm a lawyer, so I should be okay with contracting. That's good.
that helps.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we've got a couple of questions that came in. In the interest of time, I actually just have one that needs an answer tonight, because Christopher is here and he's waiting for this question. So the other ones I've actually answered personally. And that is... I would like to hear an explanation of the hyperfocal distance. So, Mark, you want to start on this, or you want me to start?
I'll say let you take it, because when it comes down to all the technical stuff like that, I don't really know. I'm not a technical guy. I just sort of work based off of it works for me, and I know how it works. But when it comes to the actual technical part of it, like hyperfocal distance and stuff like that, I'm not that savvy on that sort of stuff, so I don't want to start making stuff up.
Okay, so let me explain what the hyperfocal distance is. It is the distance between the camera and the farthest thing, or I'm sorry, this is where I always screw it up. So I'm going to start over. The hyperfocal distance is the distance between the camera and the closest thing to the camera that's in focus when the camera is focused at infinity. Okay? So like when you focus on the sky, or you focus on like a landscape that's far away from you, or something of that nature, your camera will shift all the way to the edge of the focusing range where you see that little sideways figure 8, which is the infinity symbol. And the hyperfocal distance will vary based on the lens that you're using and the particular focal length that you're actually focused at, and a little bit based on your aperture, but not very much. And it just tells you that from X number of feet or meters in front of the camera, out until forever, as far as you can see, everything will be in focus. And this can be useful in landscape photography when you want to make sure certain things in the shot are in focus. Now, the easiest way to figure out what your hyperfocal distance is to use a hyperfocal distance calculator, or a depth of field calculator. And
just put a link in.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, you were like ready for that right there.
Yeah, I was ready for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you go to that link, or you download an app to your smartphone, they're available on both iPhones and Android. You can punch in the camera that you're using, the lens that you're using, the specific focal length, and the aperture, and the calculation will be made for you, and it will say, okay, this is the hyperfocal distance, this is the nearest, the farthest, etc., etc. And you'll see all of that data. And it is useful, like I said, in making sure that the things that you want to be in focus in your shot are actually in focus. Anything you want to add to that, Mark?
Nope.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. All right, that's cool. Okay, we got a couple of questions, so I'm going to come back to this. CC Girl threw in, she said, watermark your photos and don't trust people as far as giving advice for business stuff. And Austin says, where do you get the contracts? And are there pre-printed ones to leverage, or should I consult a lawyer? Check out your... now, I'm going to make an assumption that you're in the United States, but if you're not in the United States, check out your country's or region's Professional Photographers Association. So if you go to the PPA website, in fact, I'm going to grab that link right now and just pop it in the chat. You have pre-made photography contracts that you can work from for doing professional photo jobs, and these are freely available for photographers to use and modify for their own use. So you can start there, but it is also a good idea to consult with a lawyer if you want to make sure that your contracts are good and enforceable. I'm just putting this in the chat. Contract resource. I can't spell. And that contract resource link is specifically for the United States. So again, like if you're in Canada or a different country, find your local or country Professional Photographers Association and try to find some contracts there. Another, not quite as reliable because you can't guarantee the quality of the contracts, but if you just Google photography contract sample or wedding contract sample or something like that, that will at least get you started. But
adjust them for your own needs.
Yes, yeah. So that's what I'd recommend. Candy says she did a fun shoot for free and then got 2 jobs from it because of posting pictures on her page. Exactly. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Be smart and strategic with your quote-unquote free work. But again, remember that when you're doing the free work, you're just taking non-monetary compensation. So evaluate that before you just take any job. Vincent says, and be careful with pricing. It's better to have discounts of 60% than to try to raise your fees by 60%. I would agree with that. You're better off going high and then trying to offer a discount or coming down.
Yeah, or offering a product that someone thinks the price is too high. They say, well, I might be able to throw this in and work it that way as well, too.
Right. Vincent says, to infinity and beyond. Perfect. Okay, so Austin's in Chicago, so that link will work for you for sure, Austin. Mike has another tech question, and then we'll get to the critique. Or let's see. He says, does mirror lockup really matter for the most sharp landscapes? I tried it, and it didn't seem to matter on my D810. And then he says, I really want that D820. I would say that if you're shooting like a relatively fast shutter speed. Like as an example, if you're using anything, and this is ballpark, you'll have to check it for yourself, so don't take this as like ironclad. But if you're shooting like over 1/200th of a second, I don't think mirror lockup's going to really make any difference at all.
Yeah, you just handhold that when you're taking the shot.
Exactly.
It's mostly for slower shutter speeds,
right.
And if some people will do the mirror lockup, some will use a remote shutter as well too, or if you don't have a remote, they'll just use the 12-second or whatever your particular camera has the timer built into it, and if the camera has an electronic shutter, then they'll even use that. So then there's you don't have the mirror slap and you don't have the shutter slap either. So there's lots of ways of doing it. But yeah, if you didn't notice any difference, it's probably because you were using a faster shutter speed.
Yeah. So
and another thing too is if you're using a tripod, make sure your image stabilization, whether it's in camera or in the lens or both, is turned off, because if sometimes the camera will try to actually compensate for no movement by adding movement, and it can actually cause blur.
Yep. That's absolutely right. Good tips, Mark. Good tips. And yeah, I agree. It's the low shutter speeds where that mirror lockup can actually make a difference. Mike says, free contracts, you get what you pay for. And he says, it's not that difficult to get decent ones. And he says, as a lawyer, I Google legal stuff all the time, but he knows what he's looking for. And that's why I said earlier, like, it's good if you can start with one of those free contracts, because that'll like get you farther down the road than not having a contract. And then you can take that to a lawyer and have them review it and, suggest any changes that you might need to make to like tighten it up.
Right. And I think also, even if you're dealing with the client and they even see that you have a contract, it's less likely that they are trying to pull a fast one because of the fact that there's a contract involved.
Yep, that's going to help protect you. Yeah, exactly. Hello to Angela. She just joined us. And Vincent says mirror lockup does. You can see on night shots when the upside down question mark you see when you zoom in. This occurs in daylight and long exposures, which is what we were saying basically. With long shutter speeds, that's where it's going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do this critique. We've got a photo from Kevin. I might say this wrong, and I apologize. Kevin Lemieux. I hope I'm saying it correctly. And this is the photo right here. Let me just get it switched over so all of you folks can see it. And I will read the information, and then Mark, you can go ahead and start.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and then after this, we're going to get to our main topic of discussion for tonight, and I'm really interested in this topic because it's a big thing that everybody deals with all the time. But to the critique photo. This is an engagement photo, and this is key information. This was an engagement photo shot with the Pentax K3 at an ISO of 125 with an aperture of f7.1 and a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second. This was shot with the Pentax 18 to 225 millimeter kit lens with a focal length of 21 millimeters, and Kevin did shoot this in manual mode. All right, Mark, it's all you.
Okay, do we know if he's watching or not?
I did email him, so I'm not sure if Kevin is actually here. Kevin, if you want to sound off in the chat to let us know that you're here, that'd be great. If otherwise, we'll just go ahead and we'll share our thoughts.
It is Kevin. Oh,
yeah.
I'm not sure why I saw Keith there, but anyways, okay. Okay. I'll get started on it. Overall, it's a nice little environmental portrait. Excuse me. A couple of things that I'll note. The one thing I do find is that the couple sitting here, when I first look at the picture, they almost kind of blend in just because they're dark clothes and what have you, kind of blending into the rocks and the darker trees behind them. So I find that a little bit odd because I find, to me, I'm looking at the landscape and I guess for lack of a better term, they almost seem like an afterthought in the picture. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is, with them being so red, like I know it is a sunset, but I think they might be just a little bit too red. I'd probably tone it down a little bit, but you can still keep the sunset glow there. I just find it looks a little bit too hot in my opinion, anyways. Another thing that I noticed is sort of in the right hand side of the frame in the trees, there's some sort of an odd looking thing. This just looks like a piece of paper or something that's hanging in one of the trees there. That could probably easily be cloned out. It's just sort of there, and I can't see it serving any purpose. And I guess one other thing that I noticed was a little bit odd too is the cable or the rope or whatever it is that's coming out of that large rock or whatever it is on the right hand side of the frame. It kind of goes down to the ground, and it looks like it's been photoshopped out and just sort of partially photoshopped out. It looks like the Photoshop job wasn't completed. So you might want to take a little bit of time and just to maybe try and clean that up a little bit more. But overall, it's a nice photo. It's a nice scene. My preference, if I'm doing an environmental type portrait, I like to see the people in it a little bit more. So maybe if they had been standing on there, or if you got a little bit closer to them, so they're just a little bit more prominent in the frame. But overall, it's good exposure. The settings seem decent enough. I think you said it was shot at 7.1. You probably could have even done f8 or f11 just to make sure you had full depth of field. But that being said, everything that's in the picture does seem to be pretty sharp, so it does work as is. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I'm gonna chat about it. Mark's head's gonna freeze now, but that's good because he's done talking. So, and I got to move my camera to here. So, as an engagement photo, I agree with the assessment that I think I think it's a little too wide. And they don't have quite as much prominence in the shot. There's certainly a way that you can take this sort of photo and show them in the scene, but still also show the majesty of the landscape behind them. and I think the approach is just to come in, and I think Peter mentioned this in the chat already, to come in a little bit tighter on them. You don't have to come in super tight because you don't want to eliminate this really big, beautiful, vast landscape, but come in tighter on them to make them bigger and a bit more prominent in this landscape, so that they just take up a bit more literal space in the shot. Now, one of the things that does help them stand out, like you said, Mark, is that sunlight landing on them and that beautiful, beautiful glow. I can't decide if I would want that glow toned down or not, because, like, pardon me, when I think of sitting there and having that sun hitting me with that intensity, it makes me feel warm and in that spot. But I can see why you'd want to tone that down a little bit, because they are quite orange. And if you're looking for like proper skin tones, then you definitely want to make an adjustment and just bring that down a little bit. Not all the way, because it's okay to have that in there to show that sun, but it is pretty intense. I also noticed that cable. That's something you definitely want to go in and spend a little bit more time cleaning up. My guess is that because you got that big rock stanchion and it actually looks like a barrier cable, my guess is that they're actually not supposed to be there, which, I'm not commenting on that, but it looks to me like that thing was coming across that entire area there. And it was partly removed with like the healing brush tool or something of that sort, but not completed. And so that actually becomes a distraction away from the couple. The exposure of the overall shot, I love the clouds, I love the landscape. I think the exposure is really fantastic, right? Because you've got that really big, beautiful, warm glow on them. You've got beautiful color in the trees around them where the sun is hitting it. Part of what helps the couple be the focus of the shot, even though they are relatively small, is the fact that as the landscape moves outward, the sun actually isn't hitting it. And so that does help focus the attention on them, which is good because, you could come in tighter and make them bigger. But at the same time, like the more I look at it, I'm kind of coming around to this particular composition because of that sunlight and the way it hits them. So I'm just looking at it for a moment, and I do... Yeah, you could approach it either way. Obviously, you could approach it a lot of different ways. But I'm coming around to this crop because that sunlight really makes the big difference. If that sunlight wasn't hitting them, then I would say it would absolutely be necessary to make them stand out, to recompose this a bit differently. But I think that sunlight on them is key and makes this work because it separates them out from that landscape. It helps, too, that you have that hedge of trees right behind them and stands them out even more from that background.
Yeah, the other option that you might have been able to do, too, it's hard to tell for sure, but you might have been able to get a little bit closer to them, or even maybe stayed where you were, but got down a little bit lower so that they were a little bit, I guess you could say a little bit higher in the frame, or a little bit larger. If you got a little bit closer and a little bit lower, it might have brought attention to them a little bit more. And still, if you got lower, then it would also help maintain all of the landscape as well, too.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. And I honestly, like... that's probably how I would go in and shoot that, because it's an engagement photo, because you want them to be the focus. But again, like the more I think about it, the more it does work, again, because that sun is so strong on them. It really does help make them stand out.
There's not really any right or wrong way to do it. It's just it's more a matter of preference. Like one person, you get 10 different photographers in the same scene, they're all going to shoot it a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, so overall, I do like it. And honestly, the only thing that I would change were my own photo would be to go in there and finish up the Photoshop work on the cable, that's running in there and clean up where it was done, because you can see some artifacting from the Photoshop work there. And then just above that, there's something white coming out of the trees there. It's a little weird looking thing. I'm not sure what it is, but that would be easy to fix with the hit of the clone stamper or the healing brush tool, just to remove those little bitty distractions.
Yep.
Otherwise, good job. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Kevin. We always appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts on photos and offer our feedback and try to help everybody learn from our everybody's photos and how we see these photos. Mm-hmm. We got a few comments on them, and I want to run through these quick, but we got to get to tonight's topic, and definitely got to work on timing out the shows a little bit better. Angela and Peter think that it would be better to get closer. Let's see. Candy says bring them in more as well. Sandy Gedry says also bring him in, make the subjects bigger. It could be cropped 2/3 and be stronger. Vincent says the same thing. So there seems to be a consensus that making the people bigger would be better. And that certainly would make them more prominent in the shot, and would make a strong shot as well.
Yeah, Tim said I like it because of the fact that it was shot with a Pentax.
right, for sure. Okay, let's get on to the discussion topic of the evening. Let me switch it back here so that you guys can see us and we can have this discussion. Oh, one last thing I want to let you guys know before we get to the topic. If you would like to get your photo critiqued, send the photo to Self-Help Photographer, or not send it, but visit selfhelpphotographer.com/photoblab. And you can submit your photo for critique there. And I think, Mark, next week, because we've got a bit of a backlog built up, should we do a full-on critique show next week?
Sure, if that's what you want to do.
All right. Next week, we're going to do a full-on critique show from start to finish. So if you want to get a photo in, make sure to submit it. And if we don't get it in next week, we'll get it in one of the other shows. Now, the topic of the evening, as I said, is, and as you might have seen from my posts earlier today, is the perils of sharing your photos online. So let me quickly lay this out, and then we've got some questions for this discussion. And there were two stories that triggered me wanting to have this particular discussion tonight, because they're common but also a little bit different. And one of which is Tyra Banks. She's gone on like this freckle kick on her Instagram and was liberally taking photos from other photographers and sharing them on her Instagram and not crediting the photographers at all. And one particular photographer, of the many that she was just taking photos from, whose Instagram handle is Visual Don, Visual D-O-N, discovered that a couple of his photos were used by her, and he reached out to her through Instagram direct message and asked if she could credit the photo. And he even said, I would have been fine if it was credited, but it wasn't credited. And there was no response from Tyra Banks or whoever runs Tyra Banks' Instagram, because we don't know if she's running it or if somebody does it for her. But he just wanted proper credit. Now, this got out on the websites, and so and other people learned about it, and so his particular photos were literally flooded with comments from his followers crediting him for Tyra, basically. And it got to the point where Tyra Banks, or again, whoever runs the account, deleted his photos. Not all of the freckle photos, just his photos, which were getting all of the comments crediting him as the photographer. So that was number one. And then number two was this story of a photographer named Edward McGowan. And he's a United States-based photographer. And he shot a photo in 2011. And this particular photo has been really popular. And he says he's seen multiple different types of infringement over the years. People using it without permission, like on YouTube, for album covers and things of that nature. But he was alerted recently by a friend in Germany that his photo was being used for ads. And so he went to check it out. And what he found out was that it wasn't actually his photograph that was being used, but it was a very faithful recreation of his photo. So they didn't take his photo and use it. And it's being used in a huge pharmacy product campaign. So like a drug advertisement on billboard and on packaging and in commercials. Big money is behind this. But they did not steal his photo. They saw his photo. Somebody saw his photo and liked it for the ad campaign, and the advertising agency recreated the photo themselves with a new model in a different location, but it's not identical. But if you compare the photos side by side, which you can do at the link, I'm not sure which one it is. It's the one that ends in PLK9Q. You can see the two different photos, and you can see it's clearly a copying, representation of the photo. So that's the situation. And we all know that sharing our photos online has peril attached to it, because it is so easy to appropriate somebody else's photos and just use them without permission and without much consequence either, right? Like, nothing is going to happen to Tyra Banks, right? I mean, she's been socially shamed, but outside of that, she's going to keep on being Tyra Banks and doing her thing, and probably occasionally, if she wants to, stealing photos, because she hasn't bothered to delete all the other photos, right?
Yeah, and it wouldn't have even been a big deal if she'd just given credit to the photographer.
Yeah, so the first question, we have some discussion questions, and the first question I have for tonight is, have you ever had one of your photos stolen before? And if you have, what did you do about it? And we've got some comments. So, Mark, have you ever had a photo stolen?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. So I'm going to post this photo in the chat, question in the chat, so everybody knows. Here, this is the easiest way to do it. I should just copy and paste these. I don't know what I'm thinking. So let us know if you've ever had a photo stolen. Mark says not to his knowledge. Now, not to my knowledge have I had a photo stolen, but I did have a video of mine stolen.
Yeah, I remember that. It was 6 months ago or so, wasn't it?
It was about 6 months or so ago. Somebody downloaded one of my videos from YouTube and re-uploaded the video. No editing whatsoever. Like, literally just downloaded it and re-uploaded it to their channel on YouTube. And I only found out about it because somebody pointed it out to me, which is often the case. And because it's YouTube, I had the ability to make a copyright claim on that video and have it taken down, which is what happened. I made a claim through YouTube. I proved that I was the rightful owner of that video, and they took it down from that channel. So I had recourse, which was great. But I'd like to know if any of you guys have ever had a photo stolen before.
Yeah, right. It's entirely possible that you or I or anybody else has had a photo stolen. We don't even know it. Like, I know Google has a photo thing where you can basically dump your photo in there, and it'll do a search of the web to see if it can find that photo being used somewhere else. But I've tried it a few times and never found anything.
Yeah, I've never tried. So I have no idea. There might be photos out there. Angela says she had a photo used on Pinterest, on a Pinterest thing a while back. And she says, I check on Google once every few months. And she says, I just went to Pinterest and they got rid of it. So that's a good thing. And one of the things that Facebook and by Instagram, YouTube have been bad at, or not YouTube, I'm sorry, Facebook and Instagram have been bad at, is having a good copyright system in place. YouTube used to be pretty bad at it, and in some respects YouTube still is, and a lot of people have problems with YouTube's system. But Facebook and Instagram in particular are not very good at protecting copyright. In fact, in a lot of ways, they actually make it easier to steal copyright. So that the platform supporting protecting those rights is a good thing, and knowing that Pinterest and YouTube have those avenues is a good thing. CC Girl says hers were stolen by a client. I remember when we had that discussion, and that was a really crappy situation. Yeah,
that was a couple of months ago.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Candy says she doesn't think so, but she knows of other big photographers who have. Mike says attribution is a wonderful thing. Never got anything stolen with posting and linking. He wants to know if this is a big issue. And Sandy says she thinks she would feel complimented if anyone wanted to steal one of my photos. However, I am an amateur and I don't get any money from them. Yeah, like some people would feel that way, and I understand that. Now, Peter says, isn't it amusingly sad how the recreated photo is really a poor recreation as well of the first one? And Vincent says of that the German photo crosses the line, but he'd be interested to see which photo came first. Well, the one from Edward was taken back in 2011. So I think it's pretty conclusive that his photo came first. If that's what you mean, Vincent. So Christopher says a huge panel. Oh, yeah, I remember we talked about that too, Christopher. He says he had that huge panoramic that he made of the Boston skyline that was taken by a nonprofit company, from him. I remember that discussion as well. So it's definitely happened to some of us.
Yeah. You almost have to wonder when it comes to a situation like Christopher's in that particular case. I wonder if it's just their ignorance and they just don't know any better, or do they know better and they just hope they can get away with it? I often wonder about with situations like that. Like if it's a big company, then yes, they should know. But like something that's a nonprofit company and they just
here's the thing. Like when you say it like that, like a company, the answer is absolutely they know, right? Because companies know that they have intellectual property and they protect that. They'll sue the ass off anybody who tries to steal it, right? Like that big pharma company, they've got all their patents in place and everything else to protect their drug.
That's true.
But when you get down to the nitty-gritty, where you have a person who has to do a job, and that job might be to come up with a photo for an ad campaign, we would like to think that these people know better. But, Joe Blow working in the ad agency office might not know better.
Or not care if he's being paid $5 an hour.
Exactly. So that's the problem of it. Is yes, at the big scale. Yeah, if you ask Tyra, right, she's going to say, yeah, I believe in that protection, right? If you try to steal something from Tyra, she's probably going to come after you. But either her or the person running her Instagram account, in that particular scope, didn't bother to think about the nature of this and how important it is to some of the people out here. And it really should be important to everybody. Mm-hmm. So we've got a couple of questions on that, and Sandy says, is it a copyright if you just put your name on the photos? And Sandy, it actually goes before that. It is you have the copyright the minute you click the shutter button and create the photo. Like that's, at least in the United States, and that's pretty much how it is across the board. It is protected the minute you create it. However, registering it with your copyright office, your country's copyright office, gives you additional leverage in enforcing that copyright, because then you have like an official record of this thing as you, the copyright holder. If you don't have the actual filed copyright, it's harder to take legal action and get any kind of really satisfying outcome from that legal action. So that's what I'd say on that. Mike says companies have deep pockets, they can be sued, and they have insurance. This is true, but I gotta take off my hat. One of the problems that goes along with suing is that copyright it's frustratingly vague in certain areas and ways, and suing a company like that for something would probably cost more time and money for you than anything you'd actually get back from the lawsuit. So it is unfortunately in a lot of ways cost prohibitive and time prohibitive to sue, even if you have a right and an actual case to sue. Mm-hmm. Penny says she has as well, and she contacted the person and got it resolved. Yeah, and Vincent says this is another good point. And a charity, is it a company too? Is a company too? Is the director working for free? You can bet that director is not working for free. But the director probably didn't make any decisions related to taking that image.
Yeah, probably the person who took the image was working for free.
Yeah. So I think some of you have already kind of answered this question, or at least I know Angela did, which is if a high-profile account shared one of your images without asking you, but they actually did give you proper credit, would you be okay with that? And we have some questions kind of coming along with the watermarking. So Mike says, do amateurs use watermarks? And then Angela says, I've always used watermarks, mostly because Lightroom makes it so easy. What do you think, Mike? Mark?
Mark, whoever I am.
Mike, yeah, I'm getting everything confused.
Well, when I first started getting back into it, I was putting watermarks on stuff, but I don't put watermarks on anymore because most of the time, if you do put a watermark on, you usually tuck it in a corner somewhere, so it's easy to crop the photo a little bit to get rid of the watermark, or for that matter, Photoshop itself is pretty good that you could probably just eliminate the watermark anyways if you really wanted to. The only other way would be basically put like copyright right across the middle of the photo, and in which case, in my opinion, when you're doing something like that, it completely distracts it from the photo. So myself, I don't use them anymore. I know that Spyros, I know that you do.
Yep.
But so I think when it comes to something like that, it's just a preference. Like, that doesn't protect you, possibly, but like I said, for the most part, most of the time they can easily be removed.
Yeah, I myself, now first of all, like, it's not amateurs that use watermark. Lots of professionals use watermark. Watermarking your images is not a professional or amateur thing to do. It is a thing that you can do for a number of different reasons. One of which is to try to protect your copyright. Mm-hmm. Another of which is just to try to build brand recognition. And that's why I watermark mine. Because if you look at my photos, it would take one click of the healing stamp tool to remove my watermark. Like, there's no question that my watermark is super, super simple to get rid of. My point is not to try to protect my images from theft. My point is to have that watermark on there so when people do share it, they see the watermark, so that if I'm not credited with the link or with an explicit photo by XYZ, it's hopefully still there. It's hopefully still there, and the person who cares enough to look at the watermark will see my name and maybe come back and find my work. So that's, and I actually have been thinking about changing up the way I do my watermarking a little bit, to actually kind of try to be more creative with it. But not be obnoxious about it. And it's just something I'm going to experiment with a little bit, so you might see that going forward. But if you want to protect your image with a watermark, it needs to be big, and it needs to be ugly, and it literally needs to ruin the photo. In which case, you basically might as well just not share the photo. Right. Another option that you could do, if your camera supports it, I know mine does, you can actually set your camera up with your name and your business name in the camera, so when it takes a picture, it's included with the EXIF data. Yes. And then when you export your photos, make sure you keep it there, and that way, if it does get out in the wild, assuming that wherever you uploaded it to or whoever has it hasn't removed it, then it's there, but it's hidden and nobody really knows that it's there if they're not savvy when it comes to stuff like that. Absolutely. And you can also, if you don't have it set up in your camera, you can set it up in Lightroom to apply on import if you happen to use Lightroom. Or like if you have a bunch of, like if you decide, okay, I'm going to set it up in my camera, so going forward, all of my photos will have it, but you have like your whole library of photos that don't have that. Again, in Lightroom, you can apply metadata to your images, so you can add it to all of the images in your catalog, even though it wasn't put on there in the camera, so that it's in those images. Now, just like a savvy photo thief can remove a watermark, a savvy photo thief can also remove that metadata. So that's not foolproof protection, but that is another thing you can do to protect yourself. And that's something I should probably do a video on, is setting those things up. Yeah, actually,
I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect when you upload to Facebook, it might strip that off automatically.
Oh, it does, yeah. Facebook strips metadata, which is garbage and a terrible thing of Facebook to do. But they actually got sued for that in Germany, and that might have repercussions around the world, stopping them from stripping that metadata. So that could be a good thing.
Right, but I know like Flickr and 500, I don't think they strip it out of there.
No, they maintain it for you,
Yeah.
So Austin says he's in the data security business, and there are techniques available to protect your images and embed tracking of those images across multiple data streams. I am vaguely aware of some of those services, Austin. I'd be interested to know more about those, though, because of what I've heard, I don't know of the efficacy of them, but that's just because I'm not informed, not because I don't think they work. Like, I literally don't really know that enough about them to make a comment, although I do know that they exist, so I appreciate you sharing that with us. Angela says as long as she's linked back to, she doesn't really care, go ahead and share away. And that's how I feel too. Like, if somebody wants to share my photo, if they credit me and they link back to me, like, I would be flattered by that. Now, if somebody were to take my photo and use it in an advertising campaign, that would be a little different. But there's a little bit more clarification I want to add to that, which is a lawyer weighed in on this situation with the photographer and the pharmacy company. And at least by this particular lawyer's interpretation, despite the fact that most of us, I think, feel that recreation of the photo to be used in the advertising campaign is ethically kind of smarmy and not cool to do, according to this lawyer, they're within their rights to do that. And legally, that was a fine thing to do. Because if you look at the two photos, they are different. They're not exactly the same. They did not literally copy the photo. It is very, very similar, but it is also different. If you look at the two, you can tell there are differences. Slight changes in the model's pose. The leaves in the shot are different. The angle at which it was shot was a little different. The background behind it, the curve of the road. Yeah, there are differences. And so, like, that falls within a derivative work, which is protected under copyright law, right? So even though, like, the gut reaction is to say that's a terrible thing to do and that company should probably be sued for stealing that photographer's work, legally they're actually within their right. And they might have even gone and had their lawyer look into it and say, can we do this with this photo? Is this legal to do? And once they got the clearance, said, okay, that's it. Let's pull the trigger. This is our ad campaign. So it's an interesting and it's an ugly gray area. And the reason I say ugly is because it is so unclear. There are no hard lines that we can really tread on. Because even, like copying a photo sometimes actually is okay. Like, there are fair use rules that state that you can take something that is copyright protected and use it in certain conditions. So there's no way to say like this is not okay. And that's, I think, what makes it frustrating. Let's see here. Angela says, Tim says, hey, Tim, hey, how's it going, man? Hapless Guitar Photography is here. He says, my watermark is easily removed, but most respect it. Let's see. Vincent says, the watermark is the brand. The microdata is an actual better way to protect the image. I can see that being very true. And Angela says, I find that at least when I have a watermark, even if someone crops out the corner, I have the full image, so I have proof that it's mine. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see here. And then Tim says, I tried to move some pics off my laptop and move it to an external hard drive, but when I remove them from my iPhoto library, it will delete them from my Facebook album. Oh, gosh, I don't know because I don't use iPhoto, but basically those two are linked. And so...
you have to remake the link.
Yeah, somehow. You have to remake the link somehow or upload them separate of iPhoto instead of from iPhoto up to that. Oh, yeah, Peter, I remember when that happened. People freaked out about that too because Amazon patented a product image on a white background, digital shopping basket, And a lot of photographers were freaking out because they were thinking, if Amazon patents the white background, then is no other photographer in the world allowed to use that. But it was like a very specific and particular way of taking the photograph for Amazon product photos. And it clearly turned out that they're not stopping. Exactly. Peter just commented what I'm about to say. They're not stopping anyone from doing so. They were just patenting and securing a particular way for their own usage of that style of photo. So we had a couple other questions, but honestly, we already covered them in the discussion. So in the interest of time, I do want to have a little bit more discussion because we got to do the giveaway. So let's do this. Mark is giving away a $25 iTunes gift card. This is United States only. So I'm about to...
Unfortunately, but...
I've just got to type this into the chat. All right, so give it away. All right, so you have 4 minutes for the giveaway. At 7:15, we'll make the drawing, and then we're going to wrap up the show. So the last question I want to ask then is, do any of you copyright your images right now? Mark, do you copyright your images?
No.
No? Okay. I don't either. I'm not going to lie. I don't copyright my images either. I've considered doing it, and I just haven't because it's... Right now, it
just seems like a pain in the butt.
It's too much of a pain in the butt for me to bother doing it. Yeah, exactly. And it's something that I might change in the future and try to build a process into my downloading and whatever. But the thing is, it's $35 every time you register. Now, when you do it, you can register 1,000 images at one time. So what I would need to do is set up a frequency and decide, am I going to do this once a month, once every 2 weeks, because it's $35 every time. I would probably do it if I'm going to do it once a month, just because,
Right, and then comes the other question is, do you actually do it for every single photo that you've taken, or just select few? Because you might take a bunch, a select few, and say, okay, these are the ones I'm worried about, submit them for the copyright, and then maybe a little while down the road you decide, oh, well, I kind of like this one, I'm going to edit it and throw it out there, and then in the meantime you haven't actually... You don't actually have that one copywritten because of the fact that you change things a bit. Yeah,
if I was going to do it, I would copyright all of them. They would all go, because 1,000, the copyright costs the same, $35. At least here in the United States, that's what it costs. So right. you don't lose anything by copywriting them all. So that's what I would do. If and when I start copywriting, that's what I'll do. But as of right now,
but does that mean you have to edit all the pictures as well? Or does it...
I don't think so.
I have no idea how it works, so...
No, I don't think so. I think you could just dump them up there, raw out of the camera, so to speak, and then your edits would be covered because, that's still the photo right there.
Right.
I think where you would have to probably re-register would be if you did a serious composite where you've really, really transformed the original photo into something very different, where you're combining a bunch of different stuff together. But outside of that, I don't think it matters if you're doing basic editing and retouching, just enhancing the photo to a final look.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so 1 more minute. I'm just putting the instructions in one more time, and then you guys have 1 more minute to do this, and then we're going to do it.
Yeah, and again, U.S. only. Just
yep,
in case
U.S. only.
Happen to get in here just now.
Right. All righty. So I actually extended it a minute. At 7:16, I'll make that drawing. Let's see. Oh, you mean the DC copyright vault, Vincent says. I think in the U.S., it's the only place that has the vault. Other common law jurisdictions don't have it. Yeah, see, that you got to check. your country's laws. The United States has their laws, Canada has their laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and even some regions probably have slightly different ways that it works in the particular state or province or whatever the case is as well too.
Okay. It's almost time to do the drawing. All right, here we go. Time for the drawing. I'm going to hit it, and bada bing, bada boom. Hapless Guitar Photography. Tim is the winner. So let's have a congratulations to Tim.
Congrats, Tim. I'm putting my email address in here. Just drop me an email, and I will. I'll probably what I'll do is I'll just take a picture of the code for you. That way, you don't actually have to mail it out to you.
Oh yeah, that's an easy way to do it because that's all you need is the actual code.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, as usual, for hanging out with us and for taking part of this discussion. As usual, if you have something that you'd like to see us discuss on the show, you can reach myself at Spyros at selfhelpphotographer.com, or you can reach Mark at the email he just popped in there, or you can reach both of us on Facebook and YouTube and other social media places. If you want to submit a photo for critique, head on over to selfhelpphotographer.com/photoblab, where you can submit your photo and you can submit questions and topics for the show. And Mark, is there anything you want to add?
To our channels.
Yeah, that's right. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and then head over to Mark's channel and subscribe to his channel, and then join us for Photo Blab every Wednesday night. Last thing, I will not be live editing this Friday because my wife and I are going out of town and spending the weekend drinking wine and eating good food. So no live edit this Friday. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel and Mark's channel. And if you really like this video, please share it with your friends so everybody else knows about us. But the most important thing to do, as always, is to get out there and take some damn photos. We'll see you guys next Wednesday for the next Photo Blab. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.
All right.